Hello, everyone. Welcome to another amazing episode of Growing Dentist Facebook Live Show. Today, I'm super excited to have Kevin with me. Kevin Henry is the founder of IgniteDA.net. Kevin, welcome.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's always good to talk to you.
Same here. And I know we talked a few weeks back, and I really appreciate you coming back today to talk more about dental assistants and the important role dental assistants play in a dental practice. So why don't you introduce yourself first for those of us who haven't met you just yet?
Absolutely. Glad to do it. And again, thanks for having me on. Anytime I can talk about dental assistants, it's a great day as far as I'm concerned. As you said, my name is Kevin Henry. I have been in the dental industry since 1999 and mostly on the publication side. I served for 13 years as the managing editor for Dental Economics magazine, and then for 3 years as the group editorial director for Dental Products Report. In September, we founded IgniteDA.net, which is a community for dental assistants where they can be empowered, enlightened, and educated. We're super excited about the growth that we've seen. And like I said, anytime I can talk to dental assistants, whether it's via webinar, whether it's in person, I love to speak around the country. We'll be at Yankee Dental this year doing their official assisting education track, Chicago Midwinter doing their official education track for assistants. So, we love where things are going, and we love being a part of hopefully the changing dynamic in the role of the dental assistant in the practice.
Perfect. And can you talk about how you got into this? I know your story. You were the managing editor at Dental Economics, and what inspired you to, focus on dental assistants?
Yeah, absolutely. Whenever I came in 1999, I had no background in dentistry. I came in from sports public relations. So I needed to learn how a dental practice really worked. And so one of the things I did whenever I first came on board is that I shadowed some dental practices in the Tulsa area, asked them, Tulsa, Oklahoma, where I'm from originally. And I shadowed them and asked them what made them work, just kind of saw behind the scenes stuff. And I learned very quickly how important the assistant is to a properly functioning dental practice. And yet we had publications when I was with Dental Economics and RDH magazine for the dentist and the hygienist, but there was nothing out there for the assistant. So I started Dental Assisting Digest, which was a monthly e-newsletter for assistants. I started speaking to assistants, and it grew from there. And one thing that I found is that there's not a lot of people out there actually listening to what the assistant is saying about his or her pain points, and then trying to help them through those pain points so they can become a bigger part of the bottom line of the practice. So in 17 years, that's become my crusade, I guess is a good word for it. I'm always out there trying to do what I can to elevate the role of the dental assistant, both in their own eyes as well as the eyes of the dentist as well.
Right. And so you started IgniteDA.net. So tell us a little bit about IgniteDA.
Certainly. IgniteDA is the sister of Ignite DDS. And Ignite DDS is a great group that has been founded by a good friend of mine, Dr. David Rice, out of the Buffalo area, that has reached young dentists and dental students around the country. I know that they have a growing membership of, I believe, more than 14,000 now. And these are really driving the next generation of dentists and how they work and how they build their practices. And not only as a practice, but as a business. And so David and I talked at one point, and we were like, if we're raising up the next generation of dentists, we need to be raising them up to also respect their assistants, to learn the valuable role that assistants play in the practice, as well as talking to assistants about how to better work with their dentists and how to be a bigger part of the bottom line of the business. And that's where Ignite DA came from. So we are sisters with Ignite DDS and Ignite DA working together. And again, we want dentists and assistants to work the best that they possibly can together. That's the only way that the business is really going to grow, in my opinion.
Makes sense. Let's talk a little bit more about the profession of dental assisting, and
Sure.
let's talk about the dentist, right? I mean, and how dentists currently see, like, you have been doing this for a long time. You have more than 1,000 dental assistants who are part of your community, for example. So let's talk more about, how you see it from a dentist standpoint, and let's get into it a little bit more.
Absolutely. I love to do that. And again, as 13 years as managing editor for Dental Economics, I feel like that gave me such a great opportunity to see things from the dentist's point of view. And, I understand that dental assistants are such a vital part in the dentist's eyes of how the day goes. I mean, they are working closely side by side. And yet I know so often that these assistants aren't truly viewed as partners in the practice. They're almost viewed as the bottom rung of the ladder or the low man on the totem pole. I've had countless dentists say, assistants are a dime a dozen. I can find them anywhere. I have heard some pretty derogatory things said about assistants, that they could be replaced quite easily. And yet, if you find an assistant who is passionate about what he or she does, loves the patients that come into your practice, and you work well together, that's really a diamond in the rough out there, to be perfectly honest, because a lot of times personalities don't click. Let's be honest, not all assistants are career driven. We're trying to change that, but at this point, that's true. So what I always tell dentists is you need to value your assistants, not only because of what they do right there chairside with you, but also they are the ambassadors. And I truly believe this. They're the ambassadors in your practice, because when I'm a patient and you come in and you tell me that I need a crown, the minute you leave the room, I'm going to turn to the assistant and say, what do you think? And it's valuable that that assistant is on the same page as you, is clinically trained enough to say, yes, you do need a crown, and here's why. Because the patient sees the assistant as an equal. The patient sees the assistant as somebody that they can trust. It's not that they're prescribing a crown because they feel like they've got to make a car payment or a college payment. And unfortunately, that's a bad rap that dentists get so often, is that it's a money-making scheme. Oh, I don't really need a crown. He must have a car payment coming up this month, or whatever it might be. And you and I both know that's not true, but that's the mindset of the patient. So when they turn to the assistant to ask for that second opinion, it's vitally important to your business. And again, you're not just running a practice, you're running a business. It's vitally important to that business that your assistant is on the same page as you, has the clinical knowledge to explain why the crown is needed, and can also, again, be that advocate for the patient.
Right. I think that's a good point. So you're saying the patient, when a doctor makes a recommendation, doesn't totally trust the doctor. That second opinion makes a huge difference in pushing them over the edge to say, yes, I want to go through this.
It does. And it's not just on clinical procedures like crowns, or whatever, or implants, or whatever you might be saying the patient needs. It's also that assistant can start the discussion about payment. It can start the discussion about third-party financing, like a care credit or something like that, as they're walking the patient up front. Because a lot of times, let's be honest, some people will not accept your treatment because of the cost of it. And they don't realize that there are third-party financing options available. They don't realize the resources that are available to them to help them make this work. And so the assistant can be that bridge between the back and the front as well, discussing, we have care credit as an option. We have options for you to pay this out in installments, whatever that might be. And it's an opportunity for him or her to open up that discussion as they're walking up front to transition to the front office about either treatment planning or scheduling that next appointment.
Right. So the dental assistant plays multiple roles. One of the things we just touched on is how can the dental assistant help the practice, especially help the dentist push, get somebody over the finish line, right?
Yeah.
In saying
Absolutely.
yes. But
Absolutely.
You're saying they can play other roles. And I guess the root of all of this is, if you look at a dental office, the only person focused on taking care of the patient is the assistant.
That's right.
Dentist comes in and goes out. The receptionist calls you when he needs something, to book an appointment, and then the hygienist comes in for the cleanings, but the dental assistant is there with you, making you
Right.
feel comfortable, making you feel at home.
Absolutely.
When the doctor comes in and out, taking your jacket maybe even, or even like, making sure you're getting a glass of water to kind of, wash your mouth, all of those little tiny things that's focused on you. It's the dental assistant's role. And you kind of see that dental assistant as a friend, right?
Absolutely.
As opposed to a professional in a professional business.
And I can tell you from my own family's perspective that I have had dental assistants who have helped my family members through procedures that maybe a dentist or an assistant might not think are that bad or that painful or that stressful. And yet if you have a patient in there who has high anxiety about being in the practice, it's that patient, or I'm sorry, that assistant who can really be a comforter. It's that assistant who can, give a pat on the shoulder or a pat on the hand and say, you know what, we're going to make it through this together. Little things like that play such a key role in a patient having a good experience in the practice and then not being as afraid to set up that next 6-month checkup or the next appointment or whatever it might be.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah. And let me just say real quick, I know that a couple of practices that I know of, they don't call their dental assistants. They call them patient advocates. There's one practice that actually calls them concierge members because, again, they don't see them as, and forgive me, this is a derogatory term, but spit suckers. And I've heard that used for assistants so many times, and that's how they're viewed by some dentists, and that's so inaccurate and so last century, shall we say. The businesses today that work well, and again, a dental practice is a business, but the business that works well has every member of their team performing at an optimal level and feeling like that he or she makes a huge impact on the bottom line. And whenever you're not just saying you're just an assistant, and by the way, I hate the word just, it's so limiting. But if you are saying, here's how you impact the bottom line, here's how you impact our patients, we're going to call you a patient advocate, we're going to call you a concierge, we're going to call you whatever you come up with, but it's not just a dental assistant, and I think that's the mindset that has to change in some practices.
I think you bring up an excellent point. I was just listening to Mark Zuckerberg's commencement speech at Harvard. And he made some interesting points. He said, I'm not going to talk about purpose because our generation, the millennial generation, understands purpose intuitively, right? What motivates us is because, this is a kind of a unique generation. They were not brought up by parents who fought in a war and had hard times. Pretty much everything was perfect for them from the time they were born, and whatever they wanted, they had. So it's very hard to motivate this generation with, money or title. They're like, our parents did that, but they don't have any job security. So we don't buy into any of those stuff. And why do we need to wait till we are 65 to enjoy life? Why can't we enjoy life, every day? And so he talks about purpose, and he says, he kind of laid out a challenge. He said, people in this room, we should not only, of course, we need to have a purpose. We already do, millennials do, that something that they, like in other words, finding things that you love and doing those things. And, but at the same time, he was talking about, can we help the entire world get a purpose? Meaning every single human being in the world get a purpose. You're kind of hitting on a really good point. Like dental assistant is not, not your, like you're like peon, you know what I mean?
No, I agree. I agree completely. And one thing, you just touched upon the millennial side of things. Dentists, this is your next hiring base.
Right.
If you really think about it. And you just hit upon a very key point. These assistants are wanting to come in and be a part of something bigger than themselves. They're wanting to come in and feel like that they are helping make a difference. And, you and I both know dental practices make a difference in patients' lives. Whether it's, you're restoring a smile, you're allowing somebody to eat again properly, whatever it might be, you're changing lives. And are you really letting this next generation know that? And it's got to be more than a cliche. It's got to be something that you really believe in your practice. And I know all of you, days go by and we get into ruts and everything else. And sometimes we kind of lose sight of that purpose. And yet at the end of the day, think about how many lives that you've touched, with orthodontics, with, restorations, whatever it might be. You've made a difference, and that's something that you need to be pushing out to this next generation, not only of patients, but also of your next generation of assistants and hygienists as well. Our practice makes a difference.
Right. So you're saying the purpose of the dental assistant is you are the patient advocate. You are here for the patient. You are here to make them feel comfortable, make them share what their feelings and thoughts are, make them understand why we are saying what we are saying that's good for the patient, and work as a team. So I'm not the patient advocate, I'm the dentist, I'm the technician who does the hardcore technical stuff. I have a hygienist who takes care of the day-to-day health of the mouth, but then the dental assistant is there because you are there for the patient. You are there to make sure the patient is happy and is comfortable and is taken care of, and it's felt taken care of.
Yeah, and certainly, we all know that there are roles the dental assistant plays in the practice, whether it's with sterilization, room setup, whatever that might be. We know there are clinical roles, and yet the business side of things, if you boil the practice down into business 101, the dentist is the highest paid employee of that business, okay? The hygienist is probably the second highest paid employee of that business, and let's be honest, the assistant is probably the third highest, okay? So your highest paid employees need to be doing the things that generate the most revenue for the business.
Right.
That makes common sense.
Right.
But every employee needs to be focused on how to make the business grow and how to make it better. The last thing you want is to have a patient walk out of that business or a customer walk out of that business going, I didn't feel special. I don't want to go back there. They hurt me. Whatever that might be. And again, that's where the assistant can be that bridge to making sure that things were okay, because the patient will probably say on the way up to the front, something wasn't right or whatever. And the assistant can let the front office or the dentist or whoever know that, so a follow-up can happen to make sure that whatever may not have gone just perfect is changed or is at least smoothed over.
Right. And you're saying, so there are lots of ways the dental assistant can make a difference. One is, once they have that purpose of I'm the patient advocate, they can make sure the patients love the practice. And you're telling me the story about your mom, right? And how she talks about it to every single person.
She does. Yeah, you're right. And I tell that story quite often. And for those of you who don't know it, I'll just say it real quick. My mom does not enjoy going to the dentist, even though her son works in the dental industry. She is one of those, people who does not enjoy going to the practice. And yet the practice she goes to in the Tulsa area has a great dental assistant there. And this dental assistant makes my mom feel comfortable, and she has literally helped her through procedures by holding her hand or patting her hand or encouraging her. And, that makes a huge amount of difference. And you're exactly right. My mom will tell that story to her friends, and she'll tell it to anybody that'll listen, to be perfectly honest. But what great word of mouth marketing is that for this practice in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that my mom is out there saying, what, I was scared, but Jen helped me through it. Right.
And that story gets shared, like you're sharing it now, and hopefully hundreds of people are listening to it, right? And the story is shared and shared and shared. So it's amazingly powerful, especially in the viral marketing, Facebook age we live in.
Absolutely. This is a recommendation society now, and it really is a ripple effect. If you throw that rock in the water and the ripples that go out, the same thing happens with reviews, with word of mouth, whatever that might be. Like you said, the story keeps getting shared and the audience keeps growing for that. And so you want somebody on your team who will make those ripples good ripples. And that the story that is shared is how great your practice is, not I'm never going there again.
Right. Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And people are grateful, right? When your mom is grateful forever, for that dental assistant.
Absolutely.
And across in every chance she gets.
And it's not just my mom who's grateful. It's me. I'm thankful that somebody takes care of my mom. I live in Colorado now,
Right.
but I'm thankful that if my mom has a dental procedure, there's somebody there. I'm not going to be there to hold her hand every time, but there's somebody there who can make her feel comfortable. And that's important to me, from miles away. So, I think that it's vitally important that no matter, if it's a restaurant you love to go to, or a coffee shop, or, whatever business you like to go to and will go back because you like it there, that's how the dental practice should be viewed as well. What are you doing in your business to make your patients think, that was a good experience, I'll be back. And then they'll tell their friends that.
Right. I think you bring up an excellent point. I think a lot of dentists sometimes, not a lot, but some dentists sometimes don't. They play. They try to make patients do stuff. They think, okay, let me give them a deal or an offer, so they will do something. But I think the reality is, making people want to do it is 10 times more powerful. And gratitude is a feeling where it makes you want to do it. Like, that dental assistant is so nice to your mom. You don't even know the dental assistant, but you are grateful to her and you're talking about her, even though she's not even here, right? Not just at the practice, right? Where she chooses to work. So what I'm getting at is creating gratitude in your patients.
Sure.
Could be a huge advantage for you, especially in that, like you said, the ripple effect world that we live in. Like I come from marketing, and I know, marketing is all about getting more people to know you, like you, trust you. And on the knowing part, you can do SEO to get more people to know you, so they keep finding you. But getting them to like you is hard, and you can't like manipulate people to like you. Either they do or they don't. And one of the best ways to make people to like you is, if you're nice to them and you take care of them and you're there for them, they like you. You don't have to ask them to like you. I don't walk up to you and say, hey, Kevin, you should like me. I'm a nice guy. It doesn't work that way, right? Either you like me or you don't, right?
Well, you're right. And it doesn't work that way in business either. I mean, dentists are amazing artists. They really are. They do amazing work. And yet, you all know as well as I do that if the patient had a bad experience in your practice, it doesn't matter how great their teeth look. Right. That's what we talk about. And so you've got to make sure that your entire team, front to back, everybody is on the same page of what are we doing to make our customers want to come back and share that story with their friends.
Right. I mean, you had a positive story. I have a negative story. I took my mom to an ophthalmologist, right? He has this big practice, and it's like a factory. You have to see 25 people before you see him. And then he walks in for like 35 seconds. And my mom asked a simple question. He's like, no, I can't answer that. You should make an appointment to see this other person 2 months from now. And I tell that story like hundreds of times, Right. I'm not naming the person, but not only will I not go back, but that tiny, so I guess at the end of the day, there's a human on the other side. There's not a, paper or a number. There's a real person on the other side, right?
Yeah. And so many times, I know we talk about the business of the practice, and it's production numbers, and it's, AR, and it's all these numbers that you have to know. But yet at the end of the day, it's about people. It's about your customers. It's about them coming back. It's about them believing in what you do.
Right.
I tell the story about the coffee shop. If you go into a coffee shop and your order isn't right, you might not go back to that place the next time. Or, if it's a couple of times that you have a bad experience at a restaurant, you're probably not going back there again.
Right.
Same thing holds true with the dentist, that the ophthalmology story that you just talked about, just like I share my mom's story, you share that one as well. And it's those ripples again.
Right. And the funny thing is, on paper, he's the most qualified. He has the most sophisticated office. He has everything you can imagine. But on the human level, he failed. And doesn't matter that he has 30 years of experience and he's on the cover of TV and all that stuff. If, as a human being, his practice doesn't treat you like a human being, you're not going back. I'm not a robot. I don't have to. Nobody can program me to go back. You know what I mean? I have a choice. I'm going to exercise that choice, which is not go back, but second, tell that story again and again and again.
Yeah, there are options out there. Right. And again, your patients are customers. They have options of where they can have their business. So yeah, it's definitely something to consider. And again, I know we all have bad days. I know we all get into ruts. I know that there are days that we're like, you know what? I'm out of here. Just forget this. We all have those days, but it's so vitally important that the patient never sees that side of things. That's the drama that has to be left at the back door whenever you walk in or whatever it might be. The patient can't know what's going on. And if you're having drama in your practice, whether it's team members going at each other or whatever it might be, that's something that has to stop, because your customers can feel that tension, and then that makes their already heightened experience even more heightened, that they're really in tune with everything.
And you bring up a second point. So for your dental assistant to treat your patients the way they treat their mother, or or their sister, you need to treat them the way you would treat somebody important, right?
Absolutely. I think I might have told you the story. When I was the editor of Dental Assisting Digest, I did a survey of more than 1,000 dental assistants, and I asked them point blank, I said, what's the nicest thing a dentist ever said to you? What's the meanest thing a dentist ever said to you? And I will tell you, some of the meanest things I heard, they still make me shake my head. But the nicest thing that a dentist ever said, hands down, overwhelming response, was thank you. It was a simple thank you. It was showing appreciation that that team member was doing a good job that day, that that team member helped smooth something over that could have boiled over pretty quickly with the customer, whatever it might be. So that's something that I really want to encourage the dentists who are watching this, take time to appreciate your team members, because they are playing a vital role in your business succeeding. And they need to feel like that they are an integral part of your success. So stop and say thank you. Stop and talk about the ways that somebody made a difference in a day. Don't hesitate to use those two simple words. You'll be surprised the amount of difference it can make.
Right. So you talk about appreciation, which works with everybody, not just with your dental assistant, with every human being, your child, your son, everybody. The second thing is, I think giving that purpose, right? Like discussing with them that purpose. You are not just this peon who gives me stuff. You are much bigger than that, right? Absolutely. And really kind of articulating it so they understand you, the way you see them, as somebody huge, somebody big for the overall success, of the team.
And one thing that I would love, and I always encourage assistants to start this conversation. Dennis, now I'm going to encourage you to start it as well. Ask your assistant what he or she really loves about the job. And I will tell you, the first thing they're going to say is the patients. That's what I hear overwhelmingly from my, whenever I'm doing talks around the country. Dental assistants do this because of the patients. But whenever you dig a little deeper, there are dental assistants who love oral surgery. There are dental assistants who love certain procedures. And, and I think that reinforces to the dentist that this isn't a person who's just punching the clock and is just doing this to clock in, clock out, and get a paycheck. They really care about what they do. They really like what they do. So open up that conversation about what do you like doing, and then is there a way that you can do more of that during the day? Is there a way that you can incorporate more things into the practice that your dental assistant is very passionate about? And maybe there's a revenue generator. And, I know we talked about another site, and if you don't mind pulling it up, the Dental Assisting National Board site for Danby.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. This is a site that I always encourage assistants to go to. The Dental Assisting National Board has a real great resource. If you click on where it says Meet State Requirements, up on the top right there, yes, that's perfect. And then state requirements search. This will actually show you in every state what dental assistants are legally allowed or not allowed to do in that state. It'll show you the different types of dental assistants that you can have. And there's a click button on there that will show you a PDF of exactly what assistants can or can't do in that state. And so no matter what state you're in, no matter what kind of practice you have, this is a great resource. There you go. And this is, I think, the great state of Alabama. It's a great resource for your assistants to know what can or can't be done, as well as for you to know that, because you may not be aware that your assistants can do certain procedures. Your assistants can help with certain things in the practice. And it may be something that frees up your time. And again, as the highest paid employee of the business, it frees up your time to do something else in the practice. So this is a valuable, valuable resource, because every state is different. There are a lot of states where dental assistants have a lot of leniency on what they can or can't do. And there are a lot of states that honestly, they can't do a whole lot of things, and obviously, one of these days, I'd love to see that change in every state where assistants have the power to do a lot of things. The state of Washington, where my wife is from originally, is a state where they have so many opportunities for dental assistants. And so, one of these days, I'd love to see every state have the opportunities that Washington State does with their assistants. And some of the practices that she has worked with up there, it's amazing the amount of things that the assistants can do to generate income for the practice. So, every state's different. I highly encourage dentists, assistants, look this over, kind of memorize this. And if there's some things that you find that your assistants are doing that they shouldn't be, it's a great time to put a stop to that and have a discussion about, okay, we've been doing this wrong, let's stop it. Because the worst thing that can happen would be something to go wrong during a procedure where your assistant is doing it where he or she shouldn't be.
Right. I just want to share a small exercise that maybe dentists could try. I do it in my company. It's called unique ability. So you take a list of all the activities a person does in a week, and you ask them to categorize into 4 buckets.
Uh-huh.
One is I, for incompetent, things they are not really good at, and that's not their sweet spot. C is competent. They're good at it, but they're not excellent at it. Then E is for excellent. They're really, really good at it. And then finally, it's U. Those are the things you are excellent at, plus you love, right? So once they write it down, if they see some U's, you could have a discussion around, how do I work on those unique ability activities that you love and you're excellent at, more of, right? Now, they know you are treating them like a human being. You have this, you care about what makes them happy. And the second part of it is, like you talked about, discussing that purpose. You are more than whatever the world says you are. In my practice, you are the patient advocate. You are the one who makes me a Michael Jordan, because without you, Scottie Pippen, that, makes without Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan is useless,
Great.
Just that combination that makes Michael Jordan, who he was,
Absolutely.
So really kind of creating that bigger vision and the bigger purpose, and having that, because I talked to a dentist, he had 5 dental assistants who actually ended up becoming dentists, because he created such a big, vision for them, and then he lost them, but that's okay, because, because the reputation was such that, he really cares about his people. So he gets the best people on the planet wanting to work for him.
And that makes a world of difference, and again, when I know one thing dentists hate to do is hire new people. That's one thing I know that's the bane of your existence. I get it, but if you hire correctly and you treat them properly and you treat them with respect and you listen to what they like to do and you figure out a way to do more of that not only benefits their day, but also your bottom line, then you're not going to have to do that very often. It's going to make a world of difference in your practice.
Actually, it's a win-win-win, right? The patient wins.
Absolutely.
You win, your team members win. So everybody wins. There's nobody losing here.
Great point. Absolutely right.
Right.
Absolutely. So I certainly encourage you, go to D as in dental, A as in assisting, N as in national, B as in board.org. It's a great resource, not only for dental assistants, but dentists as well. Just do some exploring on the state requirements. You might be surprised what you find there.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. We talked about a lot of things, right? The way to treat the dental assistant. Can you tell me some horror stories? Because I just, just for fun, like.
Oh, wow. Sure. There are tales of the dentist throwing the instruments across the room. There are the stories of the dentist berating the assistant with the patient right there in the chair. I won't say some of the names that I've heard dental assistants say that they've been called in the past by a dentist, both in private and in earshot of the patient. But I will say that if you're doing any of those things, today's a great day to stop doing that.
Right.
Because you're really underestimating a key part of your business, and you're really hurting it, to be perfectly honest.
Right. Right. Let's talk about amazing experiences where dental assistants love a dentist or a practice.
Absolutely. And dentists, and again, dental economics taught me a lot about the mindset of the dentist. And I know so many dentists out there are very concerned about the pay that they give their employees. They're concerned about always having to give raises and things. And I know that is a normal part of the day, is this discussion. It's an uncomfortable part of the day, but still, money should be a very black and white discussion. It shouldn't be an emotional discussion. It should be, is the employee earning that raise? Do you have the resources for that raise? So just some things like that. But I will say this: money is not the key driver for assistants. I talk to them all over the country. In big crowds and in smaller gatherings. Money is not what drives these amazing men and women. It is the patience. It is the experience. It is feeling like they make a difference. When I was with Dental Assisting Digest, I did a survey, and I asked a simple question: would you rather have a big paycheck and a lot of stress, or a small paycheck and a low amount of stress every day on the job? And again, hands down, the winner was small paycheck with a low amount of stress. So I think that there's a lot that goes on to making your employees happy, besides just giving them a fat paycheck or a bonus or, things like that. It's the daily appreciation. It's the environment that they walk into every day. Do you work in a stressful environment? And I think that if you're really honest with yourself, Mr. and Mrs. Dennis, that, at the end of the day, do you walk out of there and you're just ready to put your fist through a wall, or do you dread coming back the next day? And if you feel like that, your employees are feeling like that as well. So I always encourage folks, have that conversation about what it is in the practice or the business that's making your employees feel that way, and then get it out on the table, figure out how to resolve it. Because if your employees are struggling behind the scenes, eventually that's going to show up in front of your customers. And that's when you really have problems.
Right. That makes you're making an excellent point. When it comes to the stress, what causes stress? Like, at least from a dental assistant, because you used that word stress.
Yeah. So one of the things that I lecture on, battling and beating the demons of dental assisting. And demons are things that I have heard from dental assistants around the country year after year after year. It's money, it's respect, it's getting along with each other. It's respecting themselves. There are a lot of demons that dental assistants fight on a daily basis, but one of the big ones is getting along with each other. It's really something that, interpersonal relationships in the business, we're all humans. We all have different things we like or don't like. We all have different political beliefs or religious beliefs or sports teams that we root for. There are a lot of things that can drive wedges between people. And if those wedges, I always liken it to a splinter. If you get a splinter in your finger and you just let it sit there and fester, eventually you're going to have problems. And so if your practice has a splinter right now that is causing problems between a couple of your team members or a couple of your employees, you need to pull that splinter out. And our conversations sometimes. But getting along in the practice and those interpersonal relationships are not only key to your business running the way that it should, but again, your patients will sense it. I myself walked into a dental appointment one time right after the dental assistant and the dentist had just had it out about something, and there was ice on the walls, and I could feel it. I could sense that something was going on there, and I just walked in the middle of it. And as a patient, my first thought was, oh dear God, now they're going to work on my mouth. These people with sharp instruments who are angry are now going to use on my mouth. And like I said, patients can sense it. That the demons I talk about, interpersonal relationships, are definitely one of them in the practice. And again, not every day is going to be perfect. Not every day is going to be rainbows and unicorns and sunshine. But you need to do everything you can to make sure the majority of the days are.
Right. You used the word respect, and you said respect from others and self-respect. Can you talk more about that?
Sure. I mentioned earlier the just word that I hate. I have had dental assistants come up to me and introduce themselves as just the dental assistant in the practice, and it just makes me cringe. A friend of mine, Angela Severance, has a great site, and I should have told you about this earlier. It's called ninjadentistry.com, and the ninja stands for no, I'm not just an assistant. And I love the acronym that she has come up with for that, because it really is so true to remind assistants of the valuable role that they play. Yeah, there's Angela right there on the right of that. She is a great person. She's an advocate for the assistants. She and I do a lot of talks, on the phone and on webinars together. But I love ninjas because, no, you're not just an assistant. You are the assistant. You're the rock star of the practice. You're the person who makes things run. If an assistant calls in sick, it's a bad day. And so making the assistant remember that is sometimes one of the biggest challenges that I face, because he or she for so long has not heard thank you. They've been called, spit suckers. They've been called things that, you and I wouldn't like to be called, certainly. So raising them up to believe in themselves is so important. And that's one of the things that I do in my talks and in my lectures is, like Angela says right there, empowerment. It's about empowerment. It's about feeling like you make a difference because you do as an assistant.
Right. You bring up an excellent point. So especially if somebody has been treated as just a dental assistant, and they feel that way, and you give them a bigger vision and a bigger purpose, and you lift them up, you give them that courage and confidence and support them in going after their own dreams, like things they like, giving them an opportunity to do more of that. All of those things that makes them feel like you care about them. Usually what I find is those people who have been kind of downtrodden come up really fast.
Sure, absolutely.
Because it's just like that ceiling they had is lifted, and they just break through and they just go, unbelievable places. Yeah. Of course, you are a beneficiary of that if you're the dentist, right? Because when your patients are happy, the word of mouth is going to spread. They're going to accept treatment. Your life is going to become easier because they're more focused on making you a Michael Jordan and being your Scottie Pippen, if I may use that example.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, there is no downside to making everybody in your practice or business feel like they're an important part of your business. Right. There's no downside to it. And if the only downside that you can see is that you may have to actually pay them something else, well, that's your problem. That's something that you really got to work through on your own. But having every employee believe in the business, believe in what he or she can do to impact the bottom line, that's only going to help you. So take advantage of that. Make sure that you're appreciating everybody on your team. Make sure that they feel like a vital part of the team, because like you said, it's like that little ray of sunshine. Whenever it's been dark for so long, all of a sudden you run toward it, and it really will make a difference.
I was talking to a practice yesterday. They have been a client of mine for like 6 years. And they're doing 3.7 million last year. It's a pretty nice, successful practice. And they don't work on Fridays, but one of the things that the dentist did, so this manager that he has been working with has been with him for 30 years. So they kind of grew up together. And now the son is coming in, the dentist's son, into the practice, and she wants him to be successful and everything else. One of the things he did right early on, he focused on results. He didn't care about how much he had to pay them. He focused on, I'm just sharing the success with my team, right? So they also don't want to work hard. They want to work smart. I mean, she joked that, we don't want to be here for free. So on Fridays we don't show up because we are in California and the weather is nice, and we want to enjoy California. So,
That's good.
but they're doing 3.7 million. So it's not a small number for a dental practice. So it's kind of interesting. I think the mindset about payment, oh, I have to pay them more, that's not the right mindset. The mindset is my practice is growing. I'm just giving them a piece of that growth.
Absolutely.
So, I'm still better off because I'm also benefiting from that growth. They are better off because they're also benefiting. So
Yeah.
I think you can just change the way you look at compensation as, oh, I'm paying them from this amount to that amount to, we are bigger and they're just participating in that success.
If the business grows, it should benefit everybody because everybody has worked hard to make that business grow. It's not just the dentist. You all don't snap your fingers and suddenly everything happens.
Right.
It's the hygienist doing his or her job. It's the assistant. It's the front office. It's everybody in your business doing their job. Think about going to a Starbucks. If not everybody in there does their job, then you don't get the right cup of coffee. Or a restaurant or whatever the analogy might be. So I certainly think that if that's your only worry is I may have to pay my assistants more, then well, first of all, that's great. That's your worst worry in the world. But second of all, it really should be changing your vision more to if this person is helping your bottom line grow exponentially, there should be some rewards in there as well.
Absolutely.
And again, let me just state this. I am not saying that every dental assistant is gunning for a raise or every dental assistant is only empowered by money. That's not true at all. Dental assistants will love what they do by being appreciated, by being a part of the team. I know a lot of dentists who do not share their numbers with their entire team. And so the assistants in the front office and other people may not know if you're hitting goal for that month or, if you're behind. And certainly I encourage you, Mr. and Mrs. Dentist, share your numbers with your entire team. Let them be a part of that business. Let them know how you're doing on a monthly basis, and then let them help be part of the solution if you're falling behind, or part of the celebration if you're just kicking it out of the ballpark.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's a win-win strategy and a win-win team, but I think you're right. You don't have to bribe them with more money for them to care. You have to bribe them with you caring about them. You know what I mean? You saying thank you, you saying appreciating them, giving them that bigger vision and so forth. And then caring about what they enjoy and like what they don't. Many of the points you're making before.
Yeah. And if you'll go back to our Ignite page, if you don't mind. One thing that I believe very strongly is that this, you're not a team. You're not a staff. I'm a firm believer that staff is an infection. I believe that you're a team, and you're a team working together toward the end goal, which number one should always be how well you're treating your patients and the optimal oral health that you're able to afford your patients. But secondly, of course, and it's important for everybody in the practice, is that the bottom line does well, because you're not only paying your car payments and your house payments and your kids' college, so is the assistant, so is the hygienist. This is their profession, this is their job. And so sure, they want to work somewhere that not only they enjoy, but they feel like they have a purpose in, and they feel like that they're working toward a common goal with everybody else. If everybody's just in it for themselves, that doesn't work. But if you are working together as a team toward a common goal, and everybody knows that goal, and everybody knows what he or she should be doing to help reach that goal, then that's a whole different mindset.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. And one thing I say, and it's at the very bottom there, is that I do believe the assistant's the heartbeat and the backbone of the practice. I really do. I believe that. It's right there at the very bottom of that screen. I do believe that the assistant plays a vital role, again, not only just in the ordering and the room turnaround and setup, not things like that, but also the empowerment, the patient relationships, the things like that we've discussed earlier. I think if you really start looking at all the things that your assistant plays a role in, and really look at it through new eyes, you'll be surprised what a valuable part of your practice this person is and can be.
Right. Can we talk a little bit about the relationship with the assistant and other team members besides the dentist?
Sure. Yeah, it can be dicey, certainly, we have talked on Ignite DA. One of the webinars we focused on completely was the battles that happen sometimes between the hygienist and the assistant. We have talked about the battles between the front office and the back office. It happens in practices, and again, relationships in the practice are such a key part of that business succeeding. I always say during my lectures, and it's a very uncomfortable topic, but still, if you're having an issue with somebody, it needs to be solved sooner than later. There needs to be a hard conversation about, look, why are we fighting? Why are things not getting along? Get it out on the table, and then make sure that, you're resolving it. And again, it's not I'm right, you're wrong. It's we have to figure this out, because if we keep fighting like this, the business is going to suffer. And if the business suffers, every one of us in the business suffers as well. And that's how I always tell dental assistants to look at any tough conversation that they have to have, is do it from a business perspective. If you're truly an employee of a well-functioning business, then you should care about any little blip that would affect that well-functioning business. And that includes a fight you may be having with the hygienist, a disagreement you just have with the dentist, whatever it is. Don't let it fester. Don't let it boil under the surface, because eventually it's going to blow up. Get it out of the way early. Have that talk. It's a non-emotional talk. It's about what's best for business. And just, say, this is what we have to do for our business to succeed.
Makes sense. Can you talk about what typically causes the friction between a hygienist and a dental assistant, and then, of course, the front office and the back office?
Oh, yeah. Well, let's start with the front and the back. I mean, so many times there's a battle over the schedule book. The handoff isn't done properly. And dentists, I will say this, you have to have a proper handoff in your practice. The patient cannot just come wandering up there by himself or herself, and answer questions from the front desk about what you did that day. The assistant should always be with the patient. Again, that's that conduit between the back and the front that we talked about earlier. It's an opportunity to talk about payment options, payment plans, to talk about the next appointment, whatever that might be. So schedule book can cause it. Handoffs can cause it. There's a lot of things that can, forgive the pun, ignite things in the practice. The same thing goes through with the hygienist and the assistant. I've heard so many times those faded words, well, that's not my job, and so many times the assistant kind of is the person who does everything in the practice. And if nobody else wants to do it, it often falls to the assistant. And again, that's where, if that's happening in your practice, that's where you get a lot of anger and resentment building up within the assistant, because he or she feels like Cinderella all of a sudden, and they never get to go to the ball. But they're doing everything else. So I think the words "that's not my job" I think is one of the biggest sparks that can really cause problems in a practice. So make sure that that's not being said in your practice by anybody, because a well-functioning job or a well-functioning business, everybody should be willing to do whatever it takes to make that business succeed. And even if it's cleaning something up or sterilization or whatever it might be, everybody should be willing to pitch in to make the business run smoothly.
Right. Can we talk about, go ahead. Can we talk about the top 10, if I may, mistakes dentists make that perhaps you're thinking about? I'm putting you on the spot, so I didn't.
You are. Wow, 10. Okay. We'll see how many we get through. Right. I will say not treating your practice as a business is a huge mistake. I will say not appreciating your team is a huge mistake. I will say you being the only one who takes continuing education and not doing it with your team members is a big mistake. I've heard so many times that a dentist comes back from a great meeting and they're like, hey, we're going to do this in our practice, and you don't have any buy-in from anybody else because nobody else was there to go through the same techniques that you just went through, and so find something that the dentist and the assistant can do together to learn together, to improve the business, to improve your clinical techniques. Find that. That's a huge mistake that I often see happening. Emotions boiling over. And that's not just the dentist, that's everybody in the practice. Like I said, every day has to be about what's best for business, not what's best for you. If it's all about you, then it's going to be a me workplace, and nothing's going to get done, and nothing's going to succeed in that. Boy, yeah, you put me on the spot here. I'll have to think about some more of these. Those are the big ones that I see. And I will say this from the dentist point of view, and this has nothing to do with the assistants. But if my wife were standing here over my shoulder, she would say, not knowing your numbers. So many times we will ask dentists how their AR is, or some other numbers that the dentist should know, and they don't. And they're guessing. And then whenever you tell them the actual numbers, they're really surprised about how big that AR might be. So I think that it's vitally important that the dentist knows his or her business intimately and knows those numbers. And again, know where you're bleeding, know where things are not going well, and then come up with a solution as a team to make that happen. I will say that another big mistake that dentists make is they don't empower their teams. That it's their way or the highway. There's no room for the team to come up with a way to make things better for the business. If it's not the dentist's idea, it's a bad idea. So I certainly think getting rid of that. That's probably 7, but hey, but I think if every dentist were to do all 7 of those things, they'd be pretty amazed at what kind of business they'd be running all of a sudden.
Right. Absolutely. I think we touched on this. Like, you talked about the great experiences. You said it's respect. It's appreciation. It's doing the things they love and so forth. Any final thoughts before we wrap up? We have 3 more minutes.
Sure. Dennis, I will say this, and speaking directly to you right now. And I'm an advocate for the assistant. I'm a cheerleader for the assistant. That they are my passion. But again, I've seen how it is on your side during my years of dental economics, and I know that you have a lot of stress in running your business. I know that there are a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that you are very invested in because it's your business, it's your livelihood as well. But never forget that it's also the people who work with you. It's their livelihood as well. I was talking to a dentist one time, and he said, I don't want my team to because it's your business, it's your livelihood as well. I don't want you to hide your numbers from your team. One dentist told me one time that he would never share his numbers with his team because then they'd know how much that he made. And it's not about that. It's not about sharing salary figures or anything else. It's about knowing the numbers on if the practice is doing well or not doing well. And then coming up together as a team with a plan to help boost the business. Even if you're having the greatest month that you've ever had, what can you do to do better next month? And I think that those are the challenges that you lay out before your team and say, let's figure this out together. And I think that when somebody feels like they are making a difference, they're going to run through walls for you. They absolutely are. So treat them with respect, treat them with courtesy, treat them as a team member, treat them as a colleague, not an underling. And I think if you do that, you'll be surprised how your business will change.
That's awesome advice. I really appreciate you taking the time today. And I really appreciate
it's been great. Enjoyed it.
Yeah. You're starting Ignite DA. How many members do you have currently?
Yeah, so like you said, we are over 1,000 now. We're super excited about that. We have some partnerships that we're working on behind the scenes right now to grow that. And we are having road shows throughout the country this fall and winter. Where we're going to be bringing dentists and assistants together to learn together. I'm very excited about that. We'll be in Cleveland on June 16th. We have Maine, Buffalo, all sorts of places around the country. So we'll be updating our events page on our site to let everybody know what's going on. So, and we have webinars twice a month for our members as well. And it's not, all clinical. It's it's touching on those hot buttons that we discussed about earlier: the money, the power, the respect. Getting along with each other. We're very happy with where Ignite is going. But it's to me, it's more about elevating the profession of dental assisting as a whole. I think that when dental assistants are seen as professionals, as healthcare professionals, then the dental industry is really going to change. And that's honestly the drum that I bang all the time, is that what can we do to elevate this profession as a whole? And I feel like Ignite DA is doing its part for that.
So that's your purpose.
It is. That's, there's, work-wise, that's what gets me out of bed in the morning. My purpose in life is, my wife and my daughter, making sure that their lives are good, and we all live as happily as we can. But work-wise, it's absolutely, my mantra is, how can I improve dental assistance, in the profession? That's what I do. I love it.
That's great. This is awesome. I really enjoyed our chat today, and
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. Have a wonderful day. And thank you, everyone, for watching us live on Facebook, our Growing Dentist live show. Thank you.